This is Old Line Farmer Radio, a Maryland Farm Bureau production, helping you achieve your best farm future.
Hello and welcome to Old Line Farmer Radio. My name is Kara Hutchison, Regional Field Manager at Maryland Farm Bureau, and I'm your host this week. It's currently May 15th and the estimated average price of corn is $4.74 per bushel, and the estimated average price of soybeans is $10.33 per bushel, which is a 30-cent jump from last week. Let's check out a couple of headlines from this week. We are continuing to monitor the recent flooding in Western Maryland and how it will impact agriculture. If you live in the affected areas, continue to stay weather aware by following the updates from the National Weather Service at weather.gov. As always, our friends at Nationwide are here to help you stay prepared in light of extreme weather events. Learn more by checking out the link in our show notes. Maryland Farm Bureau is proud to invest in the future of Maryland agriculture by supporting education pursuits of young Marylanders interested in agriculture. Congratulations to Campbell Riggs, Lily Luther, Nicholas DePetro, Elizabeth Holmes, and Tate Ondrick for earning a $2,000 scholarship from Maryland Farm Bureau. Congratulations to these outstanding students. We can't wait to see the impact you'll make in the future. In federal news, Congresswoman April McLean Delaney spoke at a House Ag Committee hearing, reiterating the need for a bipartisan farm bill and funding for the SNAP programs.
This committee's number one priority, passing a bipartisan farm bill. And within 100 days of this administration, this committee should be focusing on a serious bill that makes real lasting investments. I have visited every corner of my district, and I met with all 5 county farm bureaus as well as the Maryland Farm Bureau. And I constantly hear about the risk cutting both SNAP because it hurts our farmers and producers.
In the House Appropriations Committee, Congressman Andy Harris spoke to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about the importance of working with farmers as a part of the Make America Healthy Again agenda.
Our farmers are worried that if we look at pesticides, as we should, that we just be careful that we work together to make sure that we don't cripple our agriculture economy, and I look forward to working with you on that. I yield back.
I mean, we cannot make America healthy again without the partnership of the American farmers. We cannot be putting them out of business, and they're already operating on razor-thin margins.
Last week, you heard from Maryland Farm Bureau's President, Jamie Raley. Well, this week, we are fortunate to hear from Joanne Chason and Chris Catterton, the first and second Vice President of Maryland Farm Bureau, and their experience in leadership. Kendall Abrazizi has the story.
What's up, Old Line Farmer Radio? My name is Kendall Abrazizi, and I'm here today with some very special guests. We have Joanne Chason, our first Vice President of Maryland Farm Bureau, and Chris Catterton, our second Vice President with Maryland Farm Bureau. Joanne, can you tell me a little bit about your background in agriculture?
Well, I have a varied background in agriculture. I grew up on a small farm, showing dairy cattle, showing Western pleasure horses in 4-H, and studied horticulture through high school and college. So I've worked retail, wholesale horticulture. I still milk a few cows, have some laying hens, and so kind of a diverse background.
Yeah, you get to do a little bit of everything. I like that. Chris, what about you? What is your background in agriculture?
Well, I started out as a waterman's daughter, so I worked in the aquaculture part of agriculture. We have done cattle, and now we just do hay and forage on 2 farms, one here in Maryland and one in Missouri.
Now, we've got a bit of a special scenario here. We've got some girl power in the office today. Now, what motivated you guys to run for leadership with Maryland Farm Bureau?
I was asked.
You were asked?
I was asked on the county level to join the board and then to run for office.
Same. I was asked to join my county farm bureau, and then became a county president. And then when that term was ending, I was asked by one of the other counties if I would consider running for district director, and then asked to run for second vice president a couple years ago and vice president last year.
So there's really some value in the relationships that you're building and really working your way through the leadership.
Oh, absolutely. I also served for 6 years as the women's leadership chair, which gave me the opportunity to go to Fusion and AFBF conventions and the DC fly-ins. And with the locality that we live in, we were able to go to D.C. and advocate for Farm Bureau and the farm community.
Yeah.
I love that. Chris, you're really tying us into all of our questions here.
Well, they're not intentionally.
So Farm Bureau is all about grassroots. We love hearing things come from the member level. When you're talking to members and you're going on that grassroots level, what are they telling you?
A lot of them are afraid of where their food's going to come from. And I think there's also the question of so many people don't understand that agriculture is food and fiber. They think that food comes from a grocery store. And they don't understand that you can use a whole cow or pig or livestock and get benefit from the whole creature, all the way down to shoes or a purse or a football or basketball, whatever the case may be.
So I think I have to agree with you, and I do teach part-time also, and that is a huge need, that we need to be constantly sharing our stories outward. But what I'm hearing a lot from our membership is, and I think it's starting to resolve itself a little bit, but a lot of concern about tariffs. There was, of course, a lot of concern about that. Particularly in certain areas, there's a tremendous amount of concern about farmland being used for other purposes, like running power lines through them or being taken up for solar panels. While we need to get energy from one part or one area of the country to another, we need to really think about when we take farmland out of commission. And I think those are some of our biggest, and of course there's always the regulations that Maryland Farm Bureau is constantly monitoring during general session that could affect our farming communities. So there's a lot of things that we're constantly hearing about, and I think those are some of the main ones.
I definitely think hearing our members' concerns and issues and what's going on is an integral part of not only leadership, but at the county level as well. What are some of the positives that you're hearing and the joy from our members?
Well, we're still wrapping up. I mean, general session is over, and we're still wrapping up waiting for bills to be signed and some of that finality. So we did have some really great wins in Annapolis this year. It's always good to hear that when you're out and about. I think some of the networking opportunities that Farm Bureau is offering, especially with our young farmer and rancher programs throughout the state, women's leadership, and we're also working on the promotion and engagement committee, which is something new and upcoming that will be doing outreach to the community. So I think those are some of the things that are really exciting that people are excited about.
I'll throw in a shameless plug to our listeners. If you're a young farmer and rancher and want to join us on June 7th, the first Saturday in June, for our annual summer tour and picnic, visit Maryland Farm Bureau's website to learn more and to register. Chris, what are some joys that you're seeing?
Well, I did an event at our local nursery here. It was called Green Expo, and for the people to come up and speak to Farm Bureau and asking questions, what does Farm Bureau do? They thought that we gave out just money to people, to start their farms. So you explain to them that, what we do, grassroots again, that we advocate for their legislative ends, regulations and policies, but we do help connect one farmer with another or with the right entity. And that brings joy that someone has learned.
Yeah.
Which I want to add on, ag education is detrimental in Maryland. They are not, these children and adults do not know where their food and fiber really comes from.
That's true.
Again, as I mentioned earlier, they think it comes from the grocery store. They don't know that ground beef comes from, or hamburger, let's say, comes from beef. They think it comes from ham. And a little anecdote here, hamburger got its name from being developed in Hamburg, Germany. Hence, hamburger.
Your fun fact of the day.
Fun fact of the day.
Well, let's switch topics a little bit and let's talk about AFBF. So you guys are both on AFBF's Go team. What's the importance of communicating outside of our circle to advocate for agriculture, whether it's with lawmakers, our legislators, consumers, other members? Where do you see the importance in that?
So I think what's really super important about that is that there are so many influences on the agriculture community and that farmers are enduring. And farming is very diverse, as we kind of mentioned very early on. There's so many different types of agriculture right here in Maryland, which is wonderful, but it also creates more challenges. So I think the consumers have so much influence on what they're purchasing, how they're purchasing, also how they're voting for their legislators and the legislators in regulations that affect our everyday life as farmers. So I think getting the word out to them and educating them through social media and Ask a Farmer and other engagement activities is so incredibly important to keep everyone educated so that we can continue to farm and provide them with food and fiber.
Definitely.
But as a go-teamer, as we are considered, I think it's our place to help bring the knowledge to the legislative end. They have the knowledge in their bailiwick for politics or whatever their case may be, but they don't all have the knowledge of what it takes to be in the agricultural industry. Farm factories are not out there. We are you would know the percentage. How many of us are farm families? I mean, they're small.
Yeah, most of Maryland farms.
Most are small. And as a go-teamer, we take this knowledge and experience to the lawmakers on both the county, state, and federal levels. And that's what I like about being a member of all of the Farm Bureau grassroots up.
But this is a volunteer position. You guys don't have to be doing what you're doing today. You chose to do this. Why did you choose to dedicate so much of your time to supporting Maryland Farm Bureau and Maryland agriculture?
I can tell you, for me, it started, actually, the first thing I ran for when I was a teenager was I was the county farm queen, which doesn't even exist anymore, so I'm dating myself. But I had such a passion growing up in 4-H, spending time showing my cattle at the county fair and the state fair. I just, even at a very young age, had a passion for wanting to talk to the public and educate the public and share my story with the public. And I think that it just kind of evolved into getting more involved, being a 4-H leader, getting involved with Lead Maryland, getting involved with, which then led me to get involved with my county board, which then led down the path where I am now. And if something's worth doing and you believe in it, it doesn't matter how much time it takes.
Oh my gosh.
This is important work. What we do here at Maryland Farm Bureau is so important.
I have to piggyback on that. I think it summed it up as to be a volunteer for Maryland Farm Bureau. What Joanne said was spot on. If you love what you're doing, it's not a job. If you love what you're doing and you can engage others or give them knowledge, it's not a job. And it's not about money. It's about what you get in your heart and how you feel after you've done this for someone to help them learn.
And I think that sentiment is not only seen in Maryland Farm Bureau, but it's echoed throughout all of Maryland agriculture. So I appreciate you guys both bringing that to light today. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you guys both so much for talking to us today. I'm sure our members definitely hear about how inspired you are to kind of work with your community and definitely continue to advocate for Maryland agriculture. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, please give us a rating and review. And if you learned something new today, please share this podcast with your friends. Old Line Farmer Radio is a production of Maryland Farm Bureau. Produced by Jeb Burchick. Contributions from Kara Hutchison and Kendall Abruzzese. Introduction by Hollis Zimmerman. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time on Old Line Farmer Radio.